Hi, everybody. Welcome to my interview today. I have a beautiful woman today that has gone above and beyond what should have been her life. And I fell in love with her the moment I saw her interview. So I reached out to her the same moment I watched the interview, and she agreed for our conversation today. So her name is Shehnaz, and I want her to share her story with all of you because all of you who watch me, you know I love organic. There's no scripts. It just is raw and we just flow. So I don't think I could do justice by introducing Shehnaz without her letting us know her story, where she is now, and what she's doing, and it's going to blow your mind. So Shehnaz, if you don't mind just taking over, sharing a little bit about your story and what you're doing, and we'll just let things go.
Yeah. So, hi, Kimberly, and hi, everybody else. And I'm excited to have this quantum convergence with Kimberly. She reached out to me, and it felt in my heart that I am meant to talk to her. So, we created this beautiful gathering for ourselves and for everybody else who's going to join us. I definitely feel that I have created magic in my life, considering I was given a lot of obstacle, coming from a orthodox, conservative, Muslim, cult type religion, and having to be said no for everything that one human would ask. When we are curious, we want to get some answer. And when you're born, you are like all about understanding who you are, what you are. And for me, when that consciousness took over, I had this huge thirst to understand my soul. And as much as I was thirsty for it, I was kind of shut down. And that actually created a volcano inside of me. However, because I'm a Libra and I'm all about balance and peacemaker, I integrated myself in what I was given. However, I knew that I need to channel this energy that is brewing in me. So I used my prayer, my daily prayer. I was a very good Muslim girl. I would pray 5 times a day. And in my prayer, I would ask for all the things that I felt like would open the door for me. And one of the things that I asked for is to be able to speak English because I felt that I connected speaking English with evolution. I connected speaking English with liberation. And I connected speaking English with comprehending things that are beyond other people's comprehension. Because even going to school with Urdu medium school, we had science as a subject that was taught in English. So right away, I knew that this is the one subject that I really like and is taught in English. And of course, I understood enough English to make sense out of science, but I really didn't know how to speak. So all that prayer did transform my life by me showing up in LA right after the arranged marriage in 1992. And that's truly started my life now because now I had this new playground to play in, new opportunities, new experiences, even though I was bound by a man who had an idea on how I needed to be. And I followed that script for 10 years until I realized that if I follow this script, then I'm not fulfilling my soul's desire. So that led me to another path, But then by the time I really was given a freedom to do that, I already had 2 kids. And one of my son was born with the cerebral palsy. So that has been a challenge. I mean, even now it's been a challenge, but it was a challenging place to be where you are now liberated, but you have all these other small children to take care of. Plus, you have never done this on your own. So it put me on a whole different lesson learned and so forth. So basically, going through life, 2 marriages, 4 kids, raising them, working in a corporate world, working only on rocket and missiles and programs that are very innovative and agile. And also at the same time, quenching my thirst to understanding consciousness by going to all these mystery schools and even teaching Kabbalah and even incorporating all of that in my life so I can have a liberation has brought me to the point where just in the year 2022, when I became free for the first time, because I've been raising my 4 boys for last 10 years as a single mother, when my oldest son left for college, the one that has given me a lot more learning that I was hoping for, I wrote this book actually in 6 months. So the point is, this book became my portal to bring me here, and the journey continues.
Well, yeah, there's so much I want to pivot out that I have to show the book here because I said to Shenaz that I read this book in 3 days because I couldn't put it down. And that's how I am because I just embody everything. And your story, I know there's so much more that they can find out on, where your website is, and if they get the book, there's so much we're skipping over what you went through to get from your country to America, no English language. The challenges are just unbelievable. But where we really wanted to take everything today was when you said your soul, like, first of all, you didn't even say what you do. And I really want people to understand that what you do is eccentric. Like, you work in NASA. Why don't we share, let you share, not me, what you might be doing in 2026 in terms of outer space and what you do? Because I think that would really help people understand where you came from and what you've accomplished with all of those obstacles already within you. You did this.
Right. So currently I'm working for NASA on Artemis program. And Artemis was the name selected because it is the twin sister of Apollo. So they're kind of following the Greek mythology. And the entire Artemis program is kind of like International Space Station where there is different segments to it. So we already did the Artemis 1 launch, and that was just to prove the concept that the heaviest rocket ever built can truly go to the orbit where it's going to rendezvous ultimately with the Starship. So that already happened. I'm working on Artemis 3 onwards series, and the Artemis 3 is all about making sure that the Starship, which is going to be built by SpaceX, gets to land on the dark side of the moon. And then the two astronauts, one woman and one man, will actually be the one staying there for 1 week. Okay. And we will prove the concept that we can live there for 1 week. And then we're going to keep building on it because ultimately it's all about colonizing Mars.
Okay. Can we go into any more depth as to, like, because we do hear a lot of people talk about the space program wanting to get off Earth and get somewhere else for all different reasons. I don't want to get into all the scary ones and so forth, but what is their goal? Why are they doing this? To see if we can actually move people from Earth there, colonize there? Do you know what their intentions are and their goals?
These are all like multifold reasons. And all of them are span out as like how we want to evolve technologically, not just like in a very multi-species way. So one of the main goal is that when we start exploring this lunar regolith, it has the resources that we don't have on Earth. So it's going to open the door for us to avail those resources and cross-pollinate between Earth and Moon, and then ultimately Mars. So the resource is one of the reasons. Secondly, it does give us a whole different playground to play in. It opens the door for experiments that we can't do with the gravitational force we have here and so forth. So it is kind of, and it's another way to bring everybody together because everything we'll be doing for these programs, they're international, right? So we have like countries from all over the world involved. Right now, we are going to make a mini space station to actually do a lot of, resource directing on the non-rectilinear halo orbit, which is called Gateway. And we just signed up a contract with United Arab Emirates to work with us. So the point is, it's kind of a very, very international, global, like everybody, it's an Earth program. It's not a NASA or it's not America, right? It's an Earth program. So I would say that, isn't it better to come together to do things like that versus we are spending all our resources and having to worry about nuclear attacks or Third World War, which kind of is already happening in its own way. Right. That's where we are headed.
Right. That's beautiful. So where I would like to take the followers that are watching is, did you had this desire, I believe, at a younger age to work in this type of area? Is that not correct? That you had a desire, that you were interested in something like this? You were always wondering about space and things like that when you were a child?
When I was a child, I always looked up in the sky because that's the only thing kind of like got my attention, because you see yourself on a ground and you look up in the sky and you wonder that, is this really a sky? Am I seeing what am I seeing? And if it is a sky, then what is behind it? I mean, that was just a natural question. And then for me, like, when I would watch Star Trek, when it started getting broadcast in our television, I did not understand the language English, but I loved being in a craft, exploring the world and meeting all these species. Like I've always been very intrigued about non-human species, because to me, I never looked at, like, that's why I use the word species, because I always looked at us as human, just like we have insects, just like we have other, animals. You have all these different kingdoms. And to me, like, I was very intrigued about intelligence that kind of was beyond my comprehension. Like to me, it was my curiosity, and it was exciting to me when I see species that have certain power that we don't have. And to me, it was all about like, how can we work together, right? That has been always my quest. And how can we bring more harmony?
Yeah. Well, was going to be my next question, because I'm not sure, you're an aerospace engineer. Sometimes, and in your book you clarified this, some people don't have the side of themselves when they're in math and they're in physics to think about consciousness, to think about, soul and metaphysics and such, right? It's more mathematics and linear. And you brought in both. So I was wondering, did you always have that curiosity about consciousness and does that go along with your journey towards what you're doing now, because you are a coach also in that as well, so it obviously is a big part of who you are.
Yeah, it is because I always had that awareness. Like to me, I exist, therefore I am. I always looked at everything from a larger perspective, even though I was not necessarily appreciated for that. And even now, like my close family and stuff, I don't get any kind of award for being outspoken or being what I do, right? So, but that never stopped me, because for me, at the end of the day, I knew that it is like you're walking alone, basically. At the end of the day, we're all walking alone, no matter what you have around you. And especially when people don't understand you or agree with you. I never, like, I mean, to some extent, I wondered that why I'm so challenging, right? Because it is challenging to be somebody who is curious, who wants to understand things at the deeper level, especially when most of the people are perfectly fine not knowing anything, right? So it was challenging to be me. However, I had to honor myself for who I was, even though it was hard, even though it was like you cry a lot, you go through a lot of challenges. But to me, it was like, there's a reason that I'm here. I rather be who I am than be dead. Because to me, when you're not asking the right question, or when you are living like a zombie, then that to me is not living.
Oh, 100%. I totally agree. And one of the things that you're bringing up, and I wanted to see what you felt motivated you. There's a lot of people that have desires. They have ideas of what they want to do, or they see their life in a different direction than what it is. But the next step to do that, they're not willing to do. And most times it's because of fear, whether it's fear of rejection or fear of what people will judge them, or there's a fear that lays underneath all of that that keeps them from taking that move that will take them to where they're supposed to be. When you go through your life, and there are many decisions after I read your book that you decided to move when everything was telling you, including your closest family, you don't do this, you don't go there, it just doesn't. But something inside you made you go and do that move. As if you were fearless, like, I'm going. Can you share what was that?
Yeah, it's kind of like one of those things where, when you know that something is wrong. For me, like as an engineer, like, and I'm a Libra, right? So I like to make sure everybody's happy before I am even happy, right? And I have been like we all have a tendency to be people pleaser, but I think Libras are sometimes like really to the point where they compromise themselves. So
Right.
I have done that. So like, when you're looking at the pendulum, right? You can go one extreme or the other. So I always have gone very, because everybody who comes in my life, I want to shower them with love, because that's just the way I am. But the good thing about it is that when you become aware and conscious, then you start realizing that, okay, I'm definitely doing a lot, but I'm not getting the reciprocation. I'm not getting the satisfaction. I'm not getting the love. So what happens? That's when I start thinking that, okay, I need to do some course correction here. And there's no way you're going to change the people. There's no way you can change the people. The only person you can change is yourself. So then I start thinking that, okay, I am feeling that something is not right. So then I negotiate. I've always negotiated with both of my husbands. I negotiated. I spent 2 years convincing them to stay married with me. So it wasn't just like boom, boom. So because, you have children involved, you have your emotions involved. And both of these men, I mean, I was willing to go heaven or hell with. because when I love that deep, right? So I was like, let's,
All in.
like, even when I die, I want to be with you. That's how much I was loving them at one point in my life. So the point is, I did my best to keep my life going. But the good thing was, because, as an engineer, I use my analytical mind, I basically created a plan that, okay, I'm going to do my best to make this marriage work so we can all be happy. But there is a time limit to that, or there is a threshold limit to that. And for me, when it was not being met, I had to create an alternate plan, because as an engineer, we are going to the moon. We don't just go to the moon without having plan A, B, C, D, E. So I always had those plans in the backup. And basically, the reason I did what I did was because my plans did not work the way I wanted it. But now, when you look at it from a bigger perspective, it did exactly what it was supposed to do, because I wouldn't be talking to you right now.
Right, right. So do you feel that you were being led? Were you on, do you believe that there's a soul purpose for you, that everyone has a reason, a soul contract, and yours was to end up where you are, and there's still more to your story, but where you are now, do you feel that this was meant to be for you, no matter what obstacles you were led here?
I would 100% agree that I was meant to be here. Now, when I would have gotten here would have depend on how I had weaved around, which is what that's another interesting subject, the predestination
Yeah.
and free will. So I believe that it's a dance, right? So because time does not exist in other dimensions. So to me, yes, 100%, because it's part of your soul.
Hmm.
And of course, everybody's here would look different depending on what weaving they did. But now, more and more, when you walk in your high potential and when you see what you've created, then you get that confirmation that, yes, I'm so glad I'm home now, more than I've ever been. But as I said, it hasn't been easy by any means.
Right. No, of course. And sometimes we think that that challenge or those challenges are supposed to help us grow, evolve, and whatnot. But where I feel has happened in my own life and with my clients as well is that when I've watched someone listen to their inner self, you can call it your soul, God, some people call them guides, but they listen to their intuition. Let's just put it that way. And they actually do what their intuition's suggesting without rejecting it through some type of fear or something. They have told me that they feel that that is how they've accomplished the success in their life, not listening to their actual logical mind, which is all the reasons why they can't. So my question for you then, with you and your obstacles that you went through them, you listened to something, your intuition, you were being guided, and you took the action, you moved towards it, whether you knew you were being guided, you don't know where you're going, but you listened. That's kind of where I wanted to go with that. Were you aware that you were doing this?
Oh yeah. So I'll give you a very simple example of Sleeping with the Enemy, right? It's a good movie for anybody to watch who is trying to escape their reality, right? So the whole thing is that, just like in the Sleeping with the Enemy, the girl realizes that she's with somebody who's extremely controlling and very abusive in many ways. However, she also realizes that she's stuck in this place where she can't get away from this place unless she can learn to swim, right? But she also realizes that she doesn't know how to swim. So that was exactly where I was when I realized, because I was married to these guys for 10 years, but 8 years down in the marriage, I started seeing the pattern, right? Because I'm like, I'm a smart girl, so I started seeing a pattern. I'm like, okay, you know what? I see what I'm doing. I see what my life is. I see what is happening. So of course, I started negotiating that I'm not okay with the pattern as is. I need changes, and the changes is what did not happen, which is why I had to take the step that I did. But what I do is, you use both of your hemisphere of the brain. So on one hand, when you realize it, you're using your larger part of your brain, your intuition, your creative side, and you are basically looking at everything and you're saying, there's something not right, because I don't feel good, right?
Right.
And when you don't feel good, who's going to know other than you? Nobody,
Right.
right? Because you can easily hide it. You can easily smile all the time, even though you're crying from inside. So feeling good is a very personal journey. And the only person who knows how you're feeling every nanosecond is you. So I was very aware of my feeling, because I've always been aware of my inner self. I've always been looking at things from that perspective. So then, of course, I was using my logical brain to help me come up with the plan, because we're still living in this 3D world. And in this 3D world, you do need a logical, analytical mindset to come up with the plan to exit something that is linear. So, that's the whole point, that just like when you have a problem, you always have a solution, because we human craft have all the faculties available to us to do the right thing and make the right choices. Now, of course, there's consequences of every action. And to me, that is, so I always knew that, okay, you know what? In order for me to have a freedom, like one of the things that I struggled with was darkness. So I had to learn, like I had to get out of my comfort zone to drive at night, even though I'm very scared of darkness. So because I knew that if I'm going to create this life where I may end up walking alone, then I need to make sure that I can take my babies to the hospital at night. So I made sure that I challenged myself before I did it. So, because you're the only one who knows what your strength is, yes, and what your weakness is.
Yes, absolutely. Wow, that is so powerful. Because that's the thing, you walk into like what you fear, like fear of darkness. People have that. In order for you to be able to sustain what you need to do on your own, thinking from that perspective, is you have to walk through that. And then when you do that, so you call it what is it? I'm sorry, you call it craft. I wanted to say vehicle, you call it a craft. Can you share, especially when you wrote it in your book, what do you mean by craft and where do you think you got that from?
Well, spacecraft, because I work on a spacecraft,
Right.
and I
Right.
call myself as a human craft because, we have all the similar gadgets that the rocket has. So to me, we are a craft that can be, launched
Right.
into any part. Like to me, when people talk about ascension, I talk about human craft aligning with the earth frequency and vibration in a way that we're all one. And then there is no difference between you, me, and anything else. That to me is ascension, right? So you can create that feeling of ascension through meditation, through light body activation, which is what I teach. There are many ways to go to the mountain. At the end of the day, what that feeling is the ultimate prize.
Right. Yeah, because when I read your book, and when I saw craft, I think I knew it was going with along your rocket background. I went into when I saw a human craft was the Merkaba, but then you did talk about that as we got into the book. And so I was thinking ascension, our craft as our body is able to move through dimensions and so forth. Do you get into that with what you teach? Because I'm not familiar with what I know that you do other things outside of your NASA job in terms of this craft body. Do you want to get more into deeper how you help your clients and what you teach them in that aspect?
Yeah, so so Merkaba is basically light body, right? I mean, that's what the word Merkaba means.
Right.
And the reason, like when you look at the Merkaba and it has two triangle, intersecting with each other, is partly because, when you create that Merkaba with your toroidal field, then that's the type of pattern, the sacred geometry pattern it creates. So, and I know Merkaba has its own methodology that other people have suggested it, but light body activation to me is my equivalent of Merkaba because it's something that I have kind of combined through all the things that I went through with the mystery school and learning about, life activation and so forth. Is ultimately what it is that you basically create this synergy between yourself and the earth and the sun in a way that you are so aligned and so connected, like a bird flying in the sky, where there's no tension, there's no friction, there's no stress. There's no force. When you do that, then that's when you open the door for the healing to come in the form of light, because we are light beings. And then I'm also a level 1 hypnosis under Dolores Cannon. So I have just gone through many of my own studies. So what I do is I combine everything that I've learned, and I have my own meditation that I, like basically I use certain word that helps you reprogram your cell in the way that it can help you raise your voltage so you can actually heal. So light body activation is a practice that I do on my own. I have gotten myself weaned off of a subscription medication that was given to me in 2019 when they had given me like 5 or 6 labels for diseases that I could easily collect disability if I would have made them as my own. So therefore, I use it and I want to teach other people. And my whole thing is that it is not something that like I can definitely create the light body activation on a monthly basis because people love to show up and do all that. But my goal is that if people do it once with me, and generally whenever I teach any classes, I have no problem sending my recordings. So people can truly learn everything that I'm doing. Like they can even write down the script that I use and just use it, because I don't have any attachment to what I have to offer, because I have so much to offer that I'm like, please go help yourself and share with others if you want. Because, even though in some schools that I went, they were very strict about making sure that this wisdom does not get passed on. And they were even asking me to sign the NDA, which I refused to sign.
Wow. I love that about you. The fire inside of you is so tangible and I resonate with it so much. It's like somewhat rebellious too, because you're aligned with authentic and truth. And just like what you just shared there, and I could totally be that same person. If someone asked me to do that, I would feel like that's coming from a lack kind of thing, or a scarcity of like, I don't want other people to know this. Well, that's not to me coming from unconditional love or expanded consciousness. So it's contradicting in so many. They're teaching certain things that's beautiful, but yet their energy isn't matching that. So I
Exactly.
yeah, so I would totally have been like, no, I'm not doing that, because it's not in alignment with you, right? It just doesn't.
Not in alignment. Like, why would you limit knowledge? And their whole concern is, well, if you share the knowledge with someone who's not ready, then it will create a cascading effect. I'm like, who are you to control that?
Right. Right. And we both know too, just from the information we share, is if they're ready for it, they're going to either be a client to yours, they're going to be a follower of yours, they're going to read your books, because there's something saying, "Oh, I'm thirsty. I want to learn more." And then people who aren't ready will just keep on going by. So they can
Exactly.
make their own decisions. We don't make them. Like you said, who are we to step into their free will and say, "No, no, no, you're not ready for this."
Right,
That
right. Because then, right, because that is a judgmental behavior. And to me, whenever you add those type of behavior, you are not in the flow.
Right, 100%. So I wanted to ask you now, I didn't know about the Dolores Cannon thing, which a lot of people who follow me are familiar with her. Um, your energy takes you to the invisible metaphysical, even though you are in NASA and rockets, still related to space, which is all related, but you interested in Dolores Cannon, the mystery schools. I remember listening to you on one of your interviews plus your book, where you went there because you were just curious. They weren't your people, you thought, and then as soon as you heard something, you're like, I'm home. Like this resonates with me. So you're being guided to with so much more than just the rocket thing. There's more to that, because look at the information that you're so interested in with Dolores and so forth, right?
Right, yeah. Because then to me, the fact that space has always been my interest point is because I believe that the unmanifest is where all the secret lies, right? So that my quest is, because whatever we see is just tip of the iceberg. When you come into physical reality and when you and I are interacting this through this machine, all of that is a very, very small, tiny aspect of our existence. So I'm interested in all the other things that's behind the closed door. And the more was interested in, the more I understood it. And that's what I shared my heart and soul in this book. Like, I did not keep anything to myself. I was like, let me just share everything. And then it's up to the people. Whatever they're going to get, they're going to get. At least that way I have done my part, because I wanted to empty my vessel out so I can receive more information and transformation.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Oh my God, I love that so much. One of the things I truly feel called to, like with my journey, is that we're all about growing, expanding, evolving as consciousness. And so I feel my personal thoughts on this is that we need to share what we have learned, grow, and then there will be something that will come down as a download as to what the next move will be. What's the next bunch of information that you're about to share or do? So if we don't exit that out, share that information, nothing else can come in until we expand to hold more. So I love that you kind of shared that with your book, because your book was like, for me, because I love the language of like everything you talk about. I'm a quantum physics junkie. Like, I love everything about the invisible, like yourself, because I truly have felt my whole life that there was more than what meets the eye. And I knew that there was just something else. There's just that inner knowing, like you're remembering your other lives where you knew more. So mystery schools, telepathy, all that stuff. I could see auras since I was 2 years old. So there was things that proved to you that there's more than what you're being taught. So the curiosity makes you keep going. right?
Right. And then you have a track record, right? So you're building the track record. So the very fact is that when people can do one thing for themselves, then they're going to do more and more things, because you change one thing, you change everything. So that's what I would say to all the listeners who are listening, is that you have to stand up for yourself. Bottom line is, no matter who you are, no matter what age you are, no matter what circumstances you have to stand up for yourself, because nobody else will.
100%. 100%. And where I love that so much is that um, as a paradigm in our 3D world, most of the belief is that we're victims, unfortunately. So they're waiting for savior, they're waiting for someone to help them, to get them to the next space. And what you just said is the absolute truth. First of all, if they only understood and remembered how powerful we are, to even think we needed to rely on someone else is really kind of a joke, right? When you get it. But you just said it. You have to know that you're the navigator. You're the one who's going to move the pieces in your game, or you're not. No one else is going to come over and start doing it for you. And I think a lot of people wait for that.
Well, then you stay waiting, because if you think about it, that is the frequency and vibration too. At the end of the day, when you are giving power to somebody else, because that's what it means. When you think that that is the irony of indoctrination, right? Because I watch growing up all the Bollywood movies. Okay, so Bollywood is the movies that come from India, and in all the movies, by the way, if you ever watch, it's always like the movies is that the guy does all the work. The guy is going to do so much work to chase the woman that you cannot even believe it. And woman doesn't have to do anything. She just has to look really beautiful and sing beautiful songs. But the guy will do all the work. And ultimately, the guy will do so much work that the woman will ultimately give up, because it's like, oh my God, you're so amazing. I have to fall in love with you, right? That is the type of movie I watch. So in my mind, I thought that the guy's going to do that for me. None of the guy has ever done that for me. So I'm like, you know what? I'm that guy for me now.
I love that. But isn't that interesting that that is the programming in your religion or your Bollywood, which I've never heard. That's so interesting. That to me is programming. That's telling women as young women or whatnot, this is how things are, when that is absolutely not it. So you don't do anything. You don't grow, you don't evolve, you wait.
Basically, I mean, you are like basically the girls that they show in Bollywood. Of course, they're good girls and they have a good life. But the point is that they don't have to make a lot of effort to attract a guy like that who's going to pretty much move the mountain for them. So that kind of shows a little bit like not as a, like it doesn't give the power back to you. So you actually think that one day that person is coming for me and is going to save the day. Just like if you think about it, like when you watch the movie like Cinderella, if you think about it, it has a very similarity, because even though Cinderella was a beautiful girl, an amazing girl, but at the end of the day, the prince falls in love with her, and then she gets all the right magic at the right time for her to look pretty enough to show up for the party. In reality, does it happen? Exactly.
Not a chance. Exactly. So this is where we could probably talk for 3 hours more on something different. How our mind and our perception for what they've been given to us through when we're small, it comes through Disney shows, like you just said. Then it continues at every age, a certain narrative where it does empower you to not do much, to wait around. And one of the biggest things, it's so bizarre that I remember this as a child, and this is when we're told this all the time, just hope and wish. And I remember as a child, I never believed that would work. I said, what am I hoping for? Like it's weird that you just know these things without anyone telling you. But I remember the narrative growing up, just wish, just hope and wish, and one day it'll be here. Just wait. And I remember as a child going, why do I have to wait? I just had that like you said,
that waiting, right? Because when you wait, then you wait, you see? Because then waiting becomes the part of the game. So that's the problem. And when you actually look at what David Hawkins did, right? He actually calibrated all these different emotions, and then he created the emotion scale. And if you look in the emotion scale, the value of hope and desire is very low.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. So that speaks volume that your frequency and vibration affects it. So at the end of the day, people needs to not, they don't even have to listen to you and me, actually. Just look at their own life. Okay, yeah. How many times have they had somebody come and save the day for them? And when they get the answer 0, which is what I got most of the time, that's when you realize that you got to do this for yourself. But the good thing is, okay, and I'm not trying to put everybody like who wants to help women like us down, because please, men, if you're willing to help us, come forward. But the point of the story is that you have to take responsibility for it. You have to take that action. Now, I have to tell you that every time when I took an action in a darkness, every time when I did something that was hard, uncomfortable, and challenging and had no idea what's going to happen, I started seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. And it will come in the form of men, women, people who are like, you know what, let me give you a little helping hand. So you're not going to have to do all the work, but you have to take the step.
I just love what you just said, because I have a program around this that's just came to me in the last couple of weeks, and it's what you're saying right now, which there are no coincidences, where like you just said, like me, we have to start the momentum. We go first and the universe responds. So what we fear is, we both know that's the step towards your desire, like what you want. Whatever you want is going to be feared because you've never done it before. But what I love what you just said is, you don't have to do it alone. You got to take the action, because then the universe will bring either people in, circumstances. There's little things that'll start to drop like breadcrumbs that are leading you towards what you want, but you had to take that step into the unknown first. Most people are not willing to step into that unknown because they don't know, like you said, I don't know what's going to happen, but I did it. And look at all the beautiful things that took place after.
Right. And I'll give you the analogy because I watch all these sci-fi movies, but when you look at the Stargate, right? And you're about to go through the wormhole. And I actually, when I watch that, I feel it in my heart that I'm going through the wormhole. And I even ask my question to myself that would I be willing to go through the wormhole if I'm part of that team? And the answer is always yes.
Yeah, I love that. And that's the thing that's courageous about you. Whether it's something that is just naturally part of who you are, because a lot of the people that I've met over my life working like with Bob Proctor, and a lot of the coaches I work with that are extremely, extremely successful, they make quantum leaps, not little bits, they are quantum leaps. And every time you talk to them about what they're doing exactly what you and I are discussing right now. But they don't look at it like any big deal, because for whatever reason, for their soul's journey, they just did it without caring about the fear. Where a lot of humanity has the fear block, there's certain individuals that are like, well, I know I got to go in the dark, I'm going. And they don't, they just go.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, we're all going to die. So, like, what is your biggest fear? Exactly. It's not like you can even control death, right? So, what is your biggest fear?
Right. And that's what I just love so much about what you said. Should I go that wormhole? Hell yeah. Because like you said, what do you got to lose? If I sit back, I kind of, I'm going to be curious. And at the end of the day, I think another thing too, and this is deep, is not fearing death. Like, I don't believe you fear it. I can feel that. I don't fear it. But there's people that fear death, because I think that's a huge program as well. Having humanity feel like, oh my God, like when you die, that's it. And if they understood it at a deeper level, there's nothing to fear about that.
Right. Because at the end, okay, so this is the answer to people who fear death. Okay. Something that is like that's meant to happen. Fearing it is really wasting energy. Right. But secondly, when you think about it, right, like the whole thing is that for me, there's no doubt, because I've already proved it to myself, that there is this non-physical phenomena at play in everything that we do, right? We call it God, we call it source, we call it light, we call it consciousness. So there is definitely something. So there are two types of people, right? Some people say to me that they don't believe that there is any afterlife. When you die, you're done, right? And then some people say that there's definitely an afterlife and all that, which is the category I fall under. But to me, it doesn't matter which category you fall under, you are covered. Because let's say if there's nothing after you die, there is nothing. So you have nothing to worry, because you're not going to be conscious to worry about it. So you're covered, right? And if you are somebody who believes in it, then you're covered too. So the funny thing is, it all kind of takes care of itself. So why are we wasting time on this question?
Exactly. And I love the way you have an idea of looking at the world. This is why I believe I do love what I'm doing in the world, and what you're doing is I'm wanting to take that perspective and help people see that. Because when they do, they'll be more of who they can be. Their potential will grow. And, to me, I sometimes look at it as flowers that are like kind of dwindled, and I look at the person going, my God, what you could expand out to is so beautiful, but they're holding it like this because of those fears. And you and I can see through it. I can feel it. I see there's this huge thing ready to come out, but it's them who's got to let it out. And they have to move past that. And then there's other people like you and other people. Like I had to work through it. I wasn't someone who just jumped through right in the beginning, but I am now. But I've met some amazing people who never had that hesitant from the get-go. They just went. It's like a child. A child is like risk everything, do everything. There's no limits. They still had that mindset as an adult and they just went.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So, with everything that you've learned about metaphysics, I'm calling it the invisible world, probably the manifestation, law of attraction. Dolores Cannon shares so much with anything that you read of hers. What do you think stands out for you the most, or what would you teach? Oops, we're almost gotta go. Damn, that went by fast. I want to talk more. What would you say would be the number one thing that's invisible that you trusted, that guided you, that you want to scream from the rooftops? If people knew this, your whole life will change.
So basically, the thing that we resist is also four-letter word, and the thing that we want to attract is also four-letter word. So
Oh,
the answer to your question is love, which is
oh,
the glue that holds all of us together, that holds the universe, the matter in the universe, right? So the fear that you carry is the love you withhold.
yes, I love that. I've heard that somewhere before. I don't know.
So Alex Corrier says that the pain that you carry is the
That's
love
it.
you withhold. I replaced the word pain because I actually quoted Alex on my book because I loved it. But
Yes,
since we were talking this whole time about fear, I felt like if you really look at it, and fear and pain are the same, by the way. So the fear
yes.
that you carry is the love you withhold. So all the listeners, this is my passing message, is that when you change one thing, you change everything. So remember that you are the one who's suffering with whatever choices you have made to feel the way you are. And you are the one who can change that paradigm for you by bringing more love in, by emptying out the fear.
I love that. I love that so much. And that is the truth. Like, and it starts with you. Unconditional love for you allows you to give unconditional love to others too, as well. So that can lead us into a whole other another conversation. But I love how we just kind of surrounded that right before we had to get off. I do recommend, of course, we'll talk about where they can find you, but this book, if anything about what resonated with our conversation today, I would recommend this book. Your whole heart's in this. And it's interesting. I was grateful that I got to see you first getting interviewed. I got your book the same day. Well, I ordered it the same day. But then as I'm reading it, I can see you, right? Because I've got that vision. So, and honestly, it's the same. It was like as if I was like right there with you, as if I was watching you on the interview. I could feel your heart throughout all of this, and I got shivers. My eyes watered. It was me being you during this journey. So you did a wonderful job of sharing that. But also, I love the fire in you to prove to other people you had many obstacles, maybe more than others, and you have done unbelievable things, and you still have much more to do. And I hope this gives hope, even though, I want them to see that anything's possible if you want it, right? And
100%.
that's what you shared. Well, I
100%.
just want to thank you for coming on and taking my request so quickly. Where can people find you? Where can we have people come find your work and see more about what you do?
So my website is my first and last name, which is shenazsoni.com. So, and if you sign up for my email, then any new things that I do, because I want to go to the facilitate a retreat on a sacred site. That's one of my goals. So I'm very much excited about it. And if people have great platform for that, then that's something that I'm interested in connecting with them. And then the other thing is that I would be teaching online classes like light body activation. So those type of information would come out through the emails list as well. And when you go to my website, you're going to see that I do have a one-on-one coaching. I'm still doing a little bit of that. And also I have a shop where I actually make digital products, which is like a small training packages. Like I have a light body activation, quantum manifestation. They're small introductory packages that really gives you the scientific and spiritual convergence on these subjects and how it works. There are some people, they expect that they have a lifelong pattern, and then one training for 40 minutes they can watch and it will be all gone. I
Right.
just want you to make sure that the miracle you can create is completely up to you,
Yeah.
not up to me.
Yeah. 100%. I love that you said that. I love that you said that because honestly, I'm in the coaching industry and people sometimes rely on the coach for their transformations, and that's giving your power away, and that's so misunderstood. Their coach is not responsible for you, just like what you just shared. You're offering such powerful information. It's what we do with that information causes our transformation. So that is beautiful. And one thing before I go, I'm just curious, are you going to ever write another book? Do you have any ideas of you do? Oh,
100%. That's
nice.
what I want to do. And which is why I want to channel my energy to that because I have, yeah, I feel like there are times it's like, oh my God, it's like another book is definitely coming. And I want to spend my energy on that. Plus, Alex has given me an action to make an audio file on my book. So he's like really like, yeah. So I need to work on that because I think that would be a great gift to record the book on within my voice. And that's
Oh,
another project I'm working on.
well, that's interesting that he's offered that, and then I've come out of nowhere, and I'm like, I wonder, are you going to do a book? So the universe is working through both of us to get you to do this.
That is very true. And thank you, by the way, because I think I need people like you and Alex to keep me straight because there are so much distraction even in my world, especially with this newfound visibility in the whole world. It's like, holy shit. So I'm like, okay, I have all these things that I want to do and I want to do it so it helps more people.
Yeah. Yeah, I have to stop now, but I'm blessed. Thank you very much for taking the time today to talk to all my followers and spread the love.
Yes, of course, you're welcome. Thank you.